South of Dyersville, there's an abandoned town called Rockville. Nothing is left of the town except the cemetery. The only residents of Rockville are the dead. One night, a local librarian was driving the gravel road by Rockville when he noticed a light in the cemetery. Curious, he stopped. As he walked from his car toward the light, he noticed dilapidated tombstones and trees with the wind whispering eerily in them. Toward the light in the distance. And as he got closer, he saw a man.
Welcome to my cemetery story time. I will be telling you a tale of two heads. One day, a taxi driver received a call from a man who was staying in a hotel at the center of the city. He wanted to be picked up and transported to the airport. When the taxi driver arrived at the hotel, he had to wait more than an hour for the man to come out. When the passenger emerged from the hotel, he was carrying two large bags. Always friendly and willing to assist, the taxi driver got out and tried to help the man with his bags. To his surprise, the man refused and insisted on loading the bags into the trunk of the taxi by himself. Just then, the taxi driver noticed a horrible smell. It was the stench of rot and decay, and it was coming from the bags. When he got back into the taxi, he noticed something else that was strange. The passenger seemed very nervous, and he kept looking furtively over his shoulder. The taxi driver followed the route to the airport. On the way, the suspicious passenger asked him to stop at the corner because he wanted to make a phone call. The driver obeyed and waited patiently while the passenger got out and ran over to a nearby payphone. As he sat in the taxi, the driver could smell the terrible stench coming from the boot. The odor of the decomposition was unmistakable. The nervous passenger returned and got into the back of the cab. The driver looked in the rearview mirror and noticed that the passenger was eyeing him suspiciously. By the time they reached the airport, the passenger was extremely nervous and sweating profusely. He asked the taxi driver to wait for him in the parking lot because he was worried that he may have missed his flight. Then the passenger got out and the taxi and hurried off. The taxi driver was sitting there for a few minutes when he suddenly realized that the passenger had forgotten to take his bags with him. They were still in the boot of the car. The smell was becoming so terrible that the people who were passing by the taxi had to hold their noses. The driver realized that the mysterious passenger was not going to return and decided to find out what was in the bags. He got out of the car, and when he opened the boot, he was almost overwhelmed by the terrible smell. With trembling hands, he opened the bag, and inside he found two rotting heads, a head of lettuce and a head of cabbage.